Welcome to the Event Tech Pull-Up. My name is Tess from iSocial Execution, and my partner in crime is...
Keith Johnston with i3 Events.
We are so happy to be with you this week. The main thing that we're excited about is that we actually did our launch this week. Keith, tell them about the launch and what happened and what kinds of things were going on.
Let's see. Well, we launched officially with 3 episodes out of the gate, which is absolutely fantastic. And now this will be episode 4. And luckily, it's been well received. People didn't hate us right away. You know, it takes time to hate us.
I mean, it does. It really does. Like, we can, our personalities will shower over all the madness. Exactly. And in news this week, we're going to talk about a couple of things that we did. So I don't know if our listeners and viewers are aware that my co-host Keith Johnston is really truly the infamous Plannerwire. And Keith, I think this is a great time for you to tell our audience about you. And then just one little sentence about that lovely little post you made yesterday.
Oh, you're throwing me under the bus on that one.
I am. It's a good one, though. We don't have to talk about it. We'll talk about it in the future. But I think people should know some of the things that we're doing because we are always empowering others to do things and just think a little bit about what we're doing.
And yes, I guess I am the infamous Plannerwire. And you know, when I started Plannerwire, it was always one of those things where I always just told it kind of the way that I see things. And for a long time I did that, and Plannerwire got to be quite a big blog for a while. You know, and then I really didn't have anything to say, right? Everything was kind of going, you know, the world's a mess anyway, so what am I going to add to it? But the post that I had yesterday was about the state of the industry, and that I love the fact that there are Facebook, groups and people are rah-rahing and we're going to get through this and it's going to be awesome. And the industry associations are having, oh, hooray, we're meetings and events. But you know what? No one's being a realist. No one is telling us that this is bad. It's depression level bad. And I think that this industry is going to get crushed. A lot of our talent is going to leave and never come back. I think that my guess, I heard that 50% of all hotels in Chicago will be closed after this and not come back. I don't think it's that many, but I'm guessing at least 20% of the bigger hotels aren't coming back. I think we're going to have a brain drain from the industry. But that being said, those situations do present unique opportunities to the people who stay. And for the people that can ride it out or the people that crawl across the finish line. I don't think anyone's running across the finish line on this one. I think we're all going to crawl across.
Yeah, definitely. And, in a future episode, I'm going to bring on a friend of mine named Rachel Voss, and she has a solution that may help our industry of a public and private partnership. So we'll stay tuned for that piece. But Keith,
yes.
Are you involved in other kinds of things? I know you started the collective, and but look into the future. Like, are you? Give us a little bit about where you have been this week.
We have our nice little Chicago consortium of folks who, where each one has a different skill set, and we're kind of banding together. To help each other with business. If I can find a client and there's a piece of the puzzle that I can't meet, one of these folks can come in and they can actually, fill that part of the puzzle. So we've got, a salesperson to do sponsorship and exhibit sales. We've got a person that can do AV. We've got somebody who can do logistics planning, and you've got me who can produce virtual stuff. So a lot of different skill sets, all coming together.
Yeah, I think that's great. So some of the things that I worked on this week, which I'm so glad that you talked about the collective, I had an opportunity to speak at a conference called, and we talked about it in our first episode, I believe. It was Reboot 2020 by Event Geek. And it was amazing to bring thousands. I think there was close to 2,000 event professionals from all over the world, where they had a very active, well-designed Slack group, and then was produced on Zoom. And then my topic, when I talked about how to stay human through tech disruption, did the same thing that you did, which was to talk about how we need to come together as a collective, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way we can actually move forward. So that's one of
and you know, your session was great, and I actually think overall they did a really good job producing that.
it was amazing.
I will say for the non-Slack people though, the Slack channel was a little bit overwhelming. But but again, you know what? I give them credit because you gotta try it, right? And it was cool.
It was amazing. It was cool. And that's what it is. You have to do things. And if certain things fail, it's okay because nothing is perfect. Our whole A-type personality things have gone out the door with everything that's happening. So we'll talk about a little bit more news later. We have now at the top of the hour our new guest who's going to come on. Keith, are you excited to hear from her?
I'm always excited to talk about this topic.
So I'll let you tell our listeners who she is, and then I'll tell them what she does.
Well, she is Tracy Leparulo, and she is a blockchain expert. And blockchain is one of the few things that I think is going to make a massive change in the meetings and events industry. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, but it is coming.
It is, definitely. So she's the founder of Untraceable Blockchain Events. Since 2013, she has organized some of the largest blockchain and cryptocurrency events in the world. She's best known for implementing blockchain technology throughout her conferences and bringing cryptocurrency to life on site. So we're going to bring in now Tracy. Oh, I think
oh, no.
we lost her.
Oh, no. Here she comes.
Hi, Tracy.
Look, it's like magic.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So our listeners, we've already introduced you. Keith has talked about how fabulous you are and wonderful things you've been doing in the world. So we are so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe.
Yes, definitely. Of course. So let's start with our first question. I'm doing the first one, Keith's doing the second, and then I'm going to wrap up with a big one at the end, the third. So how do you believe blockchain technology can secure your virtual event? And just, you know, we're in a virtual environment now, right? And how could you?
Wait, shouldn't we tell people what blockchain is first?
Well, I don't know. Tracy can do that in the beginning.
Okay.
Answers, yeah. She can do it that way. She'll simplify it really well.
Yeah.
And how to cryptify your virtual event. So we want to kind of look at that. That's kind of the basis of what we want to talk about today. But yes, please educate our listeners and viewers.
Definitely. Well, I highly recommend watching some YouTube videos, some explainer videos on it. But in a general sense, I think in this context, what blockchain technology helps you do is, if you can imagine putting all your information in a ledger somewhere, putting it in a notebook or a database, that's how we traditionally do it. The problem with that is that it's centralized, and so it's in one area. What blockchain technology does is allows everyone to see that book or everyone to see that information without maybe having to see maybe the finer details of it, if that makes sense. So it creates a trustless system. It creates a system that data can be stored in, but people can actually see the transactions or see the data that's stored there on different types of permissions. And so I'll explain this more in the events context because it does, blockchain does go along a lot of different industries. And so if you can imagine if someone were to ask you, how does the internet work, right? You don't actually know how the internet works or need to know how the internet works to know what the internet can do for you. But if you understand the concept of this is a trustless system, that's really the fundamental of it. And so with online events, I think the biggest thing, and even blockchain overall, is identity. It's a big, big thing to combat. In in-person events, it's very easy. Let me see your ID. Let me see who you are. Here's your badge. Great, you're in. On online events, you don't really have, you can't really do that as easily and as much. And at the same time, people get nervous giving their data online. And so with the blockchain technology, what you're finding now is it's helping virtual events that can jump on it quickly enough if it's ready to really store people's data and store people's identity. Like I always think it's interesting when they give these promos like, hey, $10 if you sign up with a new email or $20 for a referral in even when you're buying stuff online. And there's one easy flaw to that. Can you create a new email? And that fundamentally has broken so many systems, and we can't combat that online because, hey, I'll just create a new email. And when I create a new email, I'm a new identity, I'm a new person. And so in the events world, if you're saying, hey, we're having 20,000 people on our line event, how can you prove that those are really 20,000 people? How do you know it's only 500 people doing it, tons of different times? And so blockchain technology, if people were to sign up and if they include it in their blockchain, in their event registration, then they'd be able to, this is only one person. This one person maybe went and liked a poll and did a question and answer and did these sessions. But we know fundamentally there's only one person out there, and this isn't them just making a ton of emails. So it's that trustless system and that validating system. That makes sense. I know it's a lot of words.
No worries. So how you used to, for many events, cryptify them.
Yeah.
Tell people what that means and how that might come into play. So now we have the register. We know what the technology can do in terms of securing the event, the data, and tracking the progression of the attendee. It can do a couple of other, lots of other things too, from a basic standpoint. But now we're talking about currency, commerce. What does that mean in the virtual space?
Definitely. So blockchain is where you store the data in the database. Bitcoin, it's the most popular one. Other cryptocurrencies is a digital currency. It's based on a blockchain system. And so the obvious one is you can accept cryptocurrency in your registration. We do that all the time. We accept usually the top 100 different coins. So it allows a new revenue, a new avenue, also a new incentivization structure. People might have this cryptocurrency, not know where to spend it. So that's an obvious one. At your event itself, using it on site last year at our conference, you were able to buy helicopter rides with cryptocurrency. You were able to buy food trucks with cryptocurrency. The full event was that. Online, similar thing. So allowing people to accept it and use it online, I think is really important. And then the big piece of it too is, instead of giving, right now, you usually give swag out at events. People are going to that digital swag bag. So here's your $5 coupon to here or things like that, which is great. And I think it's a really interesting way to kind of give a digital swag bag. But I think cryptocurrency is kind of where it's at. And I think people would be way more inclined to do things because of it, because you're actually giving stored value to somebody. So imagine here's $5 of Bitcoin that you can spend somewhere else. You can't really do that with cash. You can't really do that right now with just a digital dollar. It's usually not just a regular dollar. It's usually in like a loyalty point or a coupon. But with cryptocurrency, I can say, hey, come to my session. You're going to get $5 in Bitcoin. I don't even need to know exactly everything, your bank account information or anything that might be intrusive. But here's $5 of Bitcoin. Go and spend it. That's kind of cool.
So I have questions.
Yeah.
So, did you see my brain? Or the gears were like slowly turning there. So I think one of the biggest questions that I think most event professionals have is, how easy is it to implement like blockchain in registration? Like, if you take I'm specifically thinking about one of my clients that it's a larger organization. They have 20,000 attendees that attend their conference every year. If this is something that they wanted to do, how do they jump into the water?
Great question. I do think it's very early on in a lot of ways, right? A lot of times it comes down to the service providers that are going to implement it themselves. There are a lot of great blockchain event companies that are focusing on, they're called smart tickets and things in that sense. I think it's still probably at least 5 more years away till the big giant people in event tech bring blockchain to it. It's like saying, well, now it's easy if you say, hey, how do I get online? How do I get a website? How do I create an online store? And now, you can do it overnight. But when the internet first came out, it wasn't as simple. And so it was like, oh, I'll hire a bunch of technical people to build this website. It took a long time. So we're at that really early stage internet phase right now. So it's forthcoming. It's on the forefront. It's probably hard to implement tomorrow in a lot of this.
Yeah.
In the events world, KYC, like know your customer in a digital sense, and identity is happening 100% in the commerce side of it. So if we want to send money across borders, there are a lot of people trying to figure that problem out and are successfully doing it. Just hasn't hit the event stage yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the fact the Bitcoin thing is spectacular. Because I do so many events, where they want to give the attendees something, right? And so they're giving them gift cards or whatever, and that they can go out and then they can use. Okay, well, it ends up in a wallet, or it ends up in the bottom of a bag and you never use it and whatever. Whereas I think that the Bitcoin or digital currency, that stays with you, right? If you don't use it, it's still good when you go home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could trade it with other people, and hey, it cost me $20 for a t-shirt and a knapsack. But this digital currency, I just might be more incentivized to it, especially with the online aspect of it.
So my final question. Oh, Keith, do you have another one?
No, those are my two.
All right. So my final question for you, Tracy, is tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Maybe like how you may have pivoted some of the things that you were doing before. Now, what do you see as the future? Just share with our audience so we can know we're going to also do, all of our listeners and viewers know that we do show notes at the end. So we'll have links to everything. So you don't have to worry about any of that, but just give us a little highlight about what's on the horizon.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, my company's called Untraceable Events. Obviously a pen on my name. We're pretty loud, obnoxious out there. But what we do is we create blockchain and cryptocurrency events around the world. I've done Bahamas, Barbados, Australia, you name it, in the States, a ton of places. What we do is we bring blockchain technology on site too. So last year, some of the big things we did is we tracked our produce right from farm to table. So people who were eating the broccoli, the peaches, the plums could see it came from the ground to the factory, to the distributor, right to our cafe, and then right to the actual event itself. We put our insurance documents on the blockchain. We put cryptocurrency throughout the event. We gave about $500,000 in cryptocurrency at the conference. So incentivizing people to download things and go and do different places. And so right now, what I do is I build these large-scale blockchain and cryptocurrency events, and I actually implement the technology on site, because I think we're at a stage now that we can start using the technology on site to make it come to life. So the big conference we do is called Futures Conference. This year we're probably going to go virtual, as everyone is, because of the current situation. But it's exciting to see how it's growing. I think every year there are more companies reaching out to me to say I want to use the technology on site. So that's a good sign for the industry. And it's exciting to have the events world really want to be interested in this, and you want to talk about it. That's a really big thing for the blockchain space. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. So if there was anything like basic, I know Keith's question was about big picture, big pieces, but if we wanted to say, anyone in the event industry wanted to take a microcosm to take a little baby step, what kind of baby step could you do? Put your little foot in it.
Oh, I would say trying to get your first wallet. And if you can, try and buy $10 in Bitcoin if you can. It's hard, and it's going to be frustrating, and you're going to feel like, I'm not smart enough for this whole experience. It's hard. We're sorry. Everyone's trying to make it easier. It's not you. It's because it's a decentralized system with no leader up top or anything like that. It's everybody working together. It's kind of like how the open source world is a bit crazy in some sense. And so if you can, try and grab a little bit of Bitcoin, or try and look at events in the blockchain space that are using it. And then there's some good explainer videos. So you do have to be cautious on the content you read online, right? Some of it's valuable, some of it's not as great, but definitely like explainer videos are really good. Watching documentaries on Vice, or watching documentaries on BBC, or anything that's more just general mainstream education on cryptocurrency, I'd recommend.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and I do think that doing it is how it's going to become mainstream in the event industry, and using it. It's like when online registration first started, right? Everyone before that was using call-in or fax or whatever the hell they were using. But I think once a planner was able to go on and register online, and they realized how beneficial it was, how easy it was, and how it changed their event, I think that's, you're absolutely right. They need to go out and they need to discover it for themselves, and, get past the frustrating parts. And then once they see the benefit, then it'll start to take hold.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay. Was there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, Tracy?
No, I think that's about it. Just, yeah, it's a frustrating concept to understand at the beginning, you'll probably have to listen to something 10 times, but one day you'll click and you'll see how incredible the technology is. And try and just get your content from really educational places and go to events. As event organizers, we know we love events. It's easier to talk to people, ask questions, and there's such a massive boom in the blockchain and Bitcoin events out there. I'm sure just event organizers have noticed that, probably being asked to do events. So go to events, check them out.
Well, thank you for being with us. We're going to definitely have your information so people can reach out to you to ask questions, or if they're interested in having little baby steps, maybe the swag portion, a little bit of the registration, just things that they can literally do is give as rewards to their attendees possibly.
Great.
So thank you so much. And you have a great, great day.
Have a great day.
Take care. So Keith, we are back at it. What you think about that interview?
Always good. Actually, she is a wealth of knowledge. And it's one of those things I really can't wait for the day when the blockchain and crypto does become mainstream in the industry. Again, she's absolutely right. I think it's going to be 5-10 years down the road. She says 5 years. I hope it's that fast. Because I do think it makes us all more secure, and it makes life easier.
Yeah, I would think it would be 3 to 5 in terms of getting your foot wet in it. Those low-hanging fruits like we talked about on the swag or the incentive part of driving for attendees or giving them a reason to be there. And the only reason why I say that I think it's probably fast-tracked a little bit more is just because we now have been all forced to go into the virtual space. If we were on the trajectory as how we were pre COVID-19, I think, it would have been slower. But now that everyone's has more attention with digital and forced to create virtual experiences, they are cramming and looking for ways to do it different. Like, for instance, that helps me segue into some of the news that we're going to talk about, or what I was going to fish up on when I this week worked on the Event Hack 2020 with Socio, and we had 5 teams to compete and figure out how to change their event virtual with ideas. That could have been one of the ideas we could have added into the process, right? Because people are cramming on how can I engage people? How do I do things differently, right? Right, Keith?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I just, you go into what blockchain can do, supply chain, right? Like right now we're having all these freaking problems with the supply chain. No one can get PPE. No one can get, well, you know what? If it's blockchain, we would have been
had our check.
Everything
if it was on the blockchain, we would have been. We would have had our money a long time ago. It would have been sitting up in the account. We could have had it sitting there. We could have decided that we want to have it in U.S., foreign currency, or any of the cryptocurrencies. We could have just left it there. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Keith, but if I wanted to choose to pay for an event, life cycle of event, we're talking about. Pay for an event, pay for any of the thing, my utilities, my mortgage. Really, truly, I could have used that money and pulled it down from there. But we're not there, there yet.
Well, and then the fraud aspect goes away, right? They're afraid of fraud, right? Fraud this, fraud that. Goes completely away.
It does. It does.
And so, anyway. So, wait, we got to talk about news.
Yeah, we do. Let's go do that news, the big ones.
The news.
The news.
All right.
So our first.
You want to do the first one, or do you want me to do the first one?
I want you to do that one because that one you like.
What, India?
Yeah.
India now saying that Zoom isn't safe. Well, you know what? None of them are safe. It's only as safe as we make it. Right. And I think of all the companies, and I said this on the last one we did, that Zoom is at least trying. Right. These other ones that you're seeing out there, and I'll even mention BlueJeans because it's going to be the next one. How safe are they? Do you know? No, you don't. At least with Zoom, you know what you're getting into.
Absolutely.
And you can password protect it and it'll be fine. Again, for most virtual events, you're not sharing state secrets.
No,
right?
Not necessarily.
So you know what?
Yeah. And I think that, and I want to commend them. I mean, India said that, but I want to commend Zoom for coming back very quickly, creating more secure product. I can lock the event. I can, create, the password for someone to come in, all kinds of different things. But some of those things might have been in order for some of the larger companies who've been doing it a long time, but their technology is not as nimble as a Zoom and easy to get on and easy to work.
Sure.
So yeah,
well,
I think
and
that's
if you're in
interesting.
aerospace, or if you're in aerospace or you work for the NSA, you shouldn't be on Zoom anyway. Right?
Yeah,
It's
right,
just, I don't
exactly.
know. People get hell bent
And
out of shape.
that's why we're here to help people get educated on. You have to be technology appropriate. The
Yes,
technology should
absolutely.
meet what your need is, not jump into something that everyone else has. So ComicCon is canceled. What's up with that, kid?
Expected, but it strikes a blow. The one thing that you're noticing, right, with all the hubbub about reopen, and I don't know if on the news last night, the Jacksonville beaches were packed, which is a bad thing. But Comic-Con canceling the cancellations are now getting pushed way out.
Mm-hmm. What month was that in, Keith? What month was Comic-Con?
July.
Okay.
July.
Because they have different ones.
So
throughout, like regional ones.
Yeah, no, this is the big San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay.
The Mac Daddy. But if they're pushing out to July on those, I have one of my larger client events now is it follows up same convention center right after Comic-Con, and I'm like,
yeah.
Brave new world.
Yeah. Let's talk about Facebook, and that's all my opinion.
What, Facebook canceling everything until June of 2021?
Yes.
Yeah, what's your opinion
Microsoft,
on that?
Microsoft has done the same thing, is cut all face-to-face for 2020. I think that that's appropriate. I think that that is a good direction to go into, because those are tech companies that can pivot very quickly. Right?
Yeah.
They have the technology to do it very well, do it easily, and do it seamlessly in-house. On the other hand, people get caught up in hype and can get fearful around things what that might mean for their event, but they need to also look at what type of company that is. It might not dictate that, but overall, I don't think that we're going to come back to complete face-to-face probably to 2021. I think we will do a slow drip in 2020. I think that slow drip will be in spokes, wheels, kind of more local first.
Yeah.
And with that local first, meaning you might have your citywide in Atlanta, and instead of getting the convention center, you have a smaller venue where you're going to live stream it, right, to people who can drive into the local area, right?
Yeah.
And creating some wonderful ways in which you can fuel the economy here in Atlanta, local chefs, activities, and things like that, where people can come in and do that. And then I think you're going to have satellite experiences like that in your major markets where your major constituents are, and stream it to them and let they come in and create those kinds of local experiences in those cities, like maybe San Diego, for instance, LA, Chicago, and actually be able to fuel those local economies back. I think it's that sort of ecosystem where I call it the new hybrid for the future. And true face-to-face, when it does come back, it's not going to look the same. All of that is over. We're going to have to space out a little differently. You're going to think about all the people who have to come into events differently. And what about the risk that's involved? How I might not even want to engage with you anymore like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck getting an insurance rider on a pandemic.
I'm going to get off my soapbox.
Well, you actually, and what you said actually makes perfect sense, because we have a client event that is the last week of October. And that's actually exactly what you said is what we're doing, right? That, it's an international conference. It's smaller. It's only a few hundred people, but they're going to have they're going to have one hub in, say, London, and they'll have one hub in, Singapore, and the local communities of attendees will go to those hubs and be able to interact, virtually together. Right. In the big rooms, like we'll have screens up on the wall and people will be
you can have food, interact, and it'll be spaced out probably in a way in which they can do it. And activities which people can do, a little differently. Leadercast has been doing that for numbers of years. That has been their model. So if any of our listeners and viewers were interested in seeing who's done it before,
There you go. And what else did we have in the news? Anything?
Somebody told me, we haven't verified this yet, but someone told me that New Orleans Convention Center has canceled face-to-face events until next year sometime, which I think is interesting. That's going to be a huge ripple if you think about when convention centers are making that decision, not necessarily the event owners. We don't necessarily know if that's true. We haven't, but that was on the wire sent to us on the down low.
on the wires. It came across the interwebs.
Yes, it came across the interwebs. But hey, Keith, it's our show. We can talk about it how we want to talk about it.
Heck yes, we can.
So we are happy to know about that. But the biggest news of them all that I've heard this week is that Verizon has decided to buy BlueJeans. Keith, describe Verizon. Describe Verizon, and then describe BlueJeans.
BlueJeans is it's a little Zoom, right? It's a great platform, right? And you want to talk about risk, right? You just had the company Verizon bought Yahoo. How'd that work out? Right? And now you want all of your. Come on, I am not.
No, well, you got to explain what that means, though, Keith. You got listeners and viewers who may not understand that part of the joke. So at least clarify that one a little bit.
Well, you know what? We'll talk about when Verizon bought Yahoo, right? Okay. Verizon is a phone company. They are not a data company. They are not, and they're not that type of they're not a Google or a Microsoft. So their main thing isn't data. Their main business is telephone calls and entertainment, right? That type of thing. So when they got a hold of Yahoo, they got a hold of a treasure trove of data about people. They got, everything that's in your emails, all of that great stuff. And yeah, they were looking at it. I'm sure they were. And they're using that to market to you. And now that they have a BlueJeans, I don't know. My brain can go in a lot of different ways that this could go. Yes, if you wanted to say, is it a good acquisition for Verizon? Sure, it is. Of course it is, right? It's more content, right? And they need content. But I think as a privacy and security issue, I think it is far and away a bad thing.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. In the article, they mentioned, this is a CNBC article, I was looking at it here. They mentioned that a couple of BlueJeans clients are Facebook. And IBM Home Red Hat. So, it might be time to keep an eye on their privacy policy because it's going to change. And it's going to be interesting because BlueJeans, I've used BlueJeans many a time. Some work that I'm doing now for a client is through BlueJeans. It's a wonderful platform, and there's a lot of companies that have to have secure environments by nature of who they are utilizing that platform for delivering their messaging, trainings, education, X, Y, and Z. So, hey.
And now they're all pulling the ripcord and bailing out of that thing as fast as they can.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We will definitely see. But I think what it does say to the public, your Zoom stock is probably going to jump way up in a sense, regardless of how it might have gone down around the security scare. But this is what, that just brings me to my point of when I created the concept called the new hybrid, meaning you are going to have, you'll never not have virtual any longer in your events, period.
Actually, in your life.
Yeah, in your life. You're right.
Yeah, it's here.
In your life. Because this is integrated beyond events.
We were talking about, you and I personally, were talking about virtual events and hybrid events 10 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And we were doing little dribs and drabs of it here and there. And now all of a sudden, now it's here, right? It took this, but now it's here and it's never going away now.
If I think about it,
it's easy.
I got one for you. Keep talking, Keith. I got one for you to tell you how long.
Well, no, I think that the masses, now know that a virtual event is an easy thing to attend. It's an easy thing to produce. a ComicCon production is way different than, streaming out your local, I don't know, Kiwanis meeting, but people are finding that they can do it. So, all right, Tess, my train of thought, my brain's going here.
But I think people have an opportunity to do it, but they still need to look to professionals to help them move them through that process.
Yes.
And I'm seeing a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to a BlueJeans," and say, "Yeah, I want to get BlueJeans. Let's do it," and then think that their event is converted.
Well, I think, as you go up the chain, right, it's very easy to produce a very simple event, right? You could have a Zoom call like this with 1,000 attendees, and it's easy to do. You're in front of a webcam, but if you want to start having multiple speakers and breakout rooms, and maybe, once the restrictions are lifted and we're doing a hybrid event where you have, speakers on a stage somewhere, you're going to want multiple cameras, right? Then the production, gets more and more difficult.
Right. Huge.
What were you looking for? Did you find it?
I was looking for a date, if you will. I was using it as an appointment. So I got my digital event strategist certification in 2013.
Yeah.
So that means that many years prior to that, my mind was there, because it took about two years, give or take, for me to even be in the first class for them.
Right.
So, and these tech companies who are providing these services, who've been here for a long time, are getting taxed as well. And hopefully they evolve to more nimble products similar to these experiences that Zoom can take. But then there's a lot that have, they're clunky, they're ugly, but they secure data and they house data really, really well. So
WebEx.
This has been going on for long. Digital is one. Digital is great with lots of content, lots and lots of content. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. So Keith, I think it's time for us to wrap it up. We have had a nice long episode today, which is good. We have a certain format, but we know that there are certain topics that we need to talk a little bit longer about in the future. And are there any closing words for our audience today? Anything you'd like to know and leave them with?
It'll get easier. It may not get better. That's the realist in me.
Right. And then mine is always, as I spoke earlier, it's respecting the pause, which is what Keith just did. You want to pause and think before you act. And hopefully you will be acting with your new mind and being a new human versus that old mind you used to have, because that one is obsolete right now in the days and times that we have now and in the future. So thank you so very much. Again, my name is Tess Visnell from iSocialX, and there is
Keith Johnston with i3 Events.
And we are together producing this lovely show called the Event Tech Pull-Up. So listen for us and make sure that you have an opportunity to visit our website at eventtechpullup.com. That's eventtechpullup.com. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.